Hey, David Brewster here, new episode of 3 for All. This is 3 Buck Dharma Licks from 1975, and I've had some requests to feature some of Buck's music, or Donald Roser is his actual name. Buck Dharma is his stage name, by the way, but Blue Öyster Cult is essential. I featured them in a Chordplay episode a couple years ago. A great, legendary rock band. Initially, they were kind of a psychedelic, biker band. Then they kind of morphed and progressed into a progressive rock band, with science fiction themes and stuff in their lyrics and time changes and unusual riffs and chords and stuff. And then eventually they had more of a commercial kind of polished sound, as they continued in their career. But definitely in the beginning, like in the early years, they had this kind of blur between psychedelic and progressive rock, an essential band. So I'm almost positive I shared this in the Blue Öyster Cult Chordplay episode, but I actually played in a band that opened for Blue Öyster Cult. That was like July 4th weekend back in 1996. And the band I played with, we kind of opened the show. But before we played, I got to meet Buck. And the promoter liked me. I think he thought I was good, a good guitarist or whatever. And then when Blue Öyster Cult showed up, they had kind of like an RV trailer off to the side of the stage they'd set up. And Buck was in the trailer. I walked over there after we did our sound check, and then Buck came out. I got a picture and an autograph and talked to him. And I knew, shaking his hand. I was nervous and excited. I was like, wow, Blue Öyster Cult. It was awesome. So the licks in this lesson actually came from a live performance with Blue Öyster Cult in 1975, and they were performing in Paris, France. And it's an early, concert for the band. But definitely, Buck was whipping out all kinds of really interesting things. For 1975, he was doing some modal, playing. He was implying harmonic minor, using delay. He did an unaccompanied solo, using delay and stuff. So for 1975, definitely Buck was way ahead of the curve. And the band was definitely, ahead of the times and, releasing and composing music for the future, technically. Right, the first lick came from their performance of the song Then Came the Last Days of May from their first album, and you should definitely check out the first Blue Öyster Cult album. I've met a lot of people that have never heard their first album. That's a banger. But this song has a descending minor progression in B, and Buck actually implies B harmonic minor for a moment here. But the progression's doing this kind of slow. Lick is like this. One more time. Something like that. So it's really kind of interesting, intervallic. He's grabbing sixths and stuff on the way up. But he's starting with this F sharp and then A sharp to B. So right off the bat, he's implying, B harmonic minor. And then after you get to that B note, then grab D there on the G string and you're grabbing those sixths like that. And then do that up in whole step right there. Now grab C sharp and grab E. Grab D. Then you're going to grab this E note, bend that up a whole step once. And then bend it up a whole step twice. And then shift up and grab this G and bend that up. And he does kind of release the bend at the end. But that's a cool riff. Or lick, rather. And it has a really mysterious, intervallic sound and implied harmonic minor. Cool lick. Next up's a descending E Dorian run, and right before the lick, Buck was banging out an E power chord, and then he plays this lick, like this. One more time. This is definitely a fill, kind of, crammed in a little opening like in the song. So he's banging around on this E power chord right before this. And then you hear this G bent up a whole step and released, and then F sharp to E there on the high E. And then this D, C sharp to B on the B string. Then right there, hop over and grab G on the G string there on the 12th fret, and then end on that E note there on the 14th fret on the D. So he's setting up this like E Dorian, you know, lick, but then he ends with a partial arpeggio, which is really cool. Like that. You know, smooth, cool, you know, rock out fill. And Buck did a lot of stuff like that. Definitely he implied modes a lot, and we're going to see some more Dorian later in this lesson. But that's a simple and kind of rock out fill. Okay, next up, this is really interesting. This is during Buck's like delay guitar solo. And he started doing this, and then it reminded me, I used to do this when I was a teenager. I'd kind of play with delay, and I would use the repeats. You know, I was kind of obviously influenced by Van Halen's Cathedral and some other, you know, songs. But I remember sitting around and playing with delay rhythmically, you know, kind of playing against the repeats and stuff. And that's basically what Buck's doing here. It's really cool. So definitely kick on some delay, kind of a slapback effect. And it's in B minor, so we're going to use the B minor pentatonic box and then the shape right after the box, you know, a shape higher. So he starts on that higher shape and just descends kind of straight. And then on the way up the, you know, like the box right there, he's using this kind of staccato muted style, and he's allowing the slapback delay to kind of, you know, play along with him. Something like this. So we're descending one scale and then climbing another, but it's all B minor pentatonic, like this. Something like that. So without the delay, if I kick the delay off, it sounds like this. You know, it's really basic. It's just two pentatonic boxes played two different ways. Straight, and then that choppy kind of staccato way. And the trick there is you're going to pick the notes, but then immediately dampen or mute right after you played it. And he's also palm muting right there, so it doesn't sound quite so bright like that. And that's essential right there, because when you kick that delay on, you need to repeat, you know, something like this. Kind of the repeat I'm using, and then descending the first time, it's really not really noticeable you're using delay. I mean, you hear that weird kind of oscillating sound, but you don't really notice the repeats until the second part. And it's really cool the way the slapback delay is kind of bouncing and appearing like in the cracks of that little sequence. You know, cool, simple idea. For 1975, though, you got to think how forward-thinking. Nobody was doing stuff like that, really. But there's Buck. Here's a bonus lick from this footage, and it's a crammed E Dorian run, and Buck's kind of doing an accelerando where he starts slow and then he starts going faster, like this. It's really cool. One more time. You know, something like that. So we're in E Dorian, and he basically starts with this E, F sharp, and G, and then just A and B. So that's going to feel like a little part of, you know, minor pentatonic right there. Right? So it's three notes and then two, and then after that, it's three notes per string, and it's E Dorian. So he's doing... And then right here, grab that D sharp and start, or that C sharp, D and E, F sharp, G and A, and then B, C sharp and D, and then E, F sharp and G. And at the very end, shift up and grab that A and bend that up to B. So really slow, he's doing... something like that. And a little faster. And you can definitely hear him kind of speeding up, like that second half. And that's kind of how it's crammed in there like that. And I definitely like licks like that where it's kind of mixing, 2-note per string scales, 3-note per string scales. We've hit some of that, in recent episodes here. But there's, Buck Dharma's kind of version of E. Dorian right there. Alright, that's going to wrap this episode of 3 for All with this look at 3 Buck Dharma licks from 1975. Definitely a very interesting and inspiring and forward-thinking guitarist. Back in the 70s, Buck was definitely whipping out things that nobody else was really doing. And then his impact and his music was so, popular and everything, it influenced, other players on the scene almost immediately. As soon as they heard him playing, or maybe they, saw Blue Öyster Cult in concert or something, I definitely suspect people like Eddie Van Halen, like in, say, 1975, Eddie would have been younger, and I suspect maybe him and Alex, like going to a Blue Öyster concert, maybe he saw Buck whipping out all these delay effects and stuff during his solo. That could have been an inspiration for people like Eddie. Because eventually Eddie started whipping out, delay effects and stuff during his solos. So Buck definitely, still active, still out there, still rocking. But it's really interesting to notice what he was doing and how early it was. Nobody was really doing stuff like that, but Buck Dharma was. So anyway, leave some feedback and comments. Please subscribe to Lessons, and I'll be back before you know with more content and material. Thank you.